Let's now cross back to our reporter, Motshekga Kamani. She's in Statfontein following the family to school, and we saw her a bit earlier just outside their house, and they were talking to the excitement that they were experiencing to make the way back to school for the first time. Unfortunately, it looks like we've just dropped the line to Motshekga. We're going to get her on the line because we've been getting some reports, chatting to her a bit earlier, that some of the children were actually being turned away due to too much capacity at the school. Doesn't make sense, but we need to find out the story from her. Apparently she's back on the line now. Motshekga, we were talking to the fact that, please correct us if we're wrong, if we've got the wrong story here, that some of the learners have actually been turned away because it's overcapacity at the school. What's happening?
Yes, Lee, and remember earlier on in the morning we had spoken to Mpochoma, and he made his way to school, and we followed him here at Manglemang Senior Secondary School. And if I'm just going to just move, and you will see that these are just some learners that have been turned away at this particular school. These are grade 10s and 8s that were, they came and they had prepared to come to school. Instead, seemingly there won't be any schooling for them today. And I'm going to speak to Mpo. Just ask him, what is it that happened, because we weren't there inside. We just saw him coming out of school. Seemingly they were ready for school. Mpo, what happened in here today? Seemingly Mpo, and then you've last been here since when? It would seem, Leanne, that Mpo is not really sure what is it that happens, but also just expressing his dissatisfaction at the mere fact that they were turned away from school, but saying that there are other pupils here that are seemingly education is continuing. But it would seem, I think, that it seems to be a capacity thing, because I understand that 2 grades are outside. These were the 2 grades that were turned away, I think. Grade 8 and 10s. These are also pupils that were lost at school in March when the lockdown began. They haven't been to school since March. But I'm going to talk to another learner. Can you just tell me what is it that happened here, and when were you last at school?
Oh, I was last at school on March, but I don't still remember the date. But now we came here at school, and it happened that when we arrived at the assembly, our principal told us to return home because of there were some distractions, because he said that grade 8s and grade 10s should go home so that the grade 11s and grade 9s should be at school. So, yeah.
And what have you been doing? You were last at school in March. Maybe let's talk about that. What have you been doing in terms of curriculum catching up? Have you been getting additional work? Did the principal announce anything about additional work?
No, he did not. But then, I was studying at home alone. And I've been using the DPE learning guides, and also study applications guides also.
Are you confident of a pass?
I'm not sure, but then I believe so, because we don't expect. Actually, we don't know whether next week is our principal also going to say we shall come next week. That we don't know, so I'm not sure, but I believe so.
Thank you. You've just heard there, and I think the explanation was that I think they're going to divide those grades. Some schools obviously having capacity. I'm going to assume this is a capacity issue in terms of classrooms, and that social distancing that must take place. Obviously, more classes now being used in terms of how many learners are able to sit in a classroom. What would be a normal 20, perhaps a class that caters for 20 would now be catering for 10. This would mean that certain grades then could not be accommodated. But also I think hearing the learner just expressing, the uncertainty, the lack of communication, they're just saying that they're not sure if next week when they come back will they also be told the same thing. But he has been, from his own effort, been trying to follow the DBE websites in terms of worksheets, in terms of, taking previous tests and question papers, just to try and I think be ahead or, keep up in terms of the curriculum. But seemingly not everybody being able to do that. Mpo, when we spoke to him and, when we were just chatting with him telling us that he hasn't done anything. So it would seem that the students are not in equal footing. And I think a lot of them seemingly were hopeful that they would be able to start with their education today. But it would seem that for Mpo and his peers, it would be another week of waiting to see if they will again be allowed back into the classroom.
Motshekga, just a quick follow-up. I mean, I've been surveying the area around you. I haven't seen any teachers or anybody around there that you could possibly ask what the problem is. I mean, obviously we're speaking to the students as we heard you speaking to, but any official word from teachers? Do you see them around the premises? Are they testing the kids as they come in, temperatures, all of those things? I mean, is there one around that we could perhaps get a word from as to what's gone wrong?
Leanne, when we arrived here, this is the gate. The learners seemed to just walk in and go. I think there's a courtyard that side. There was no one standing here with, doing that normal screening that you would find at schools before the children actually enter the premises of the school in terms of checking for the temperature as well and, just asking those relevant questions in terms of COVID-19. Regulations that have been stipulated by the department. We haven't seen that, but I'm hoping to get officials, Limpopo officials, education officials, just to give us an understanding what is it that is happening in terms of schooling here in the province. Understand that I think at around 10 o'clock the MEC of education in this particular province will be at a school in Tabakubedu, and we're trying to also go there just to help her, for her to help us understand what is it that is happening here in terms of some children being turned around. Was there no forward planning by educators and also by their officials that they have been closed for nearly a month? What was it that they were doing in those weeks where there was no learning that was taking place?
Motshekga, thanks very much. And if anything else develops, I know we will cross over to you if you perhaps get somebody to chat to at the school. But yeah, not a good story coming out. Unfortunately, this specific school that Motshekga Khumani is stationed at right now, that a lot of the pupils have actually been turned away, saying that the school has now reached capacity and those learners must go back home again.